Hello everyone, this is Victor Momo. In this video, I want to talk about the substitute function. Depending on the space in which you play, you may or may not have encountered the function, but it is a very powerful function that can help with your productivity and efficiency. So for as many of us that have ever used the find and replace feature in Excel, Control F, Control H, the substitute function should not be strange to you or would not be difficult for you to grasp. Because what the substitute function really is just the function of formula approach to find and replace. So rather than using the inbuilt, find and replace feature in Excel, you are approaching it using a formula and a function. That's really what the substitute function is. So here briefly, I just talk about the syntax. So the substitute function has 4 arguments: the text, old text, new text, and instance number. And because you have the instance number in square brackets, that means it's an optional argument. So what it means is that whether or not you feed Excel with that argument, Excel will still be able to resolve the function. Okay, so let's briefly just talk about what the arguments are. So the first one is the text. The text is the string, maybe if you are not pointing to a cell and maybe you have a string written out already, either the string or the cell within which you want to do your find and replace. Okay, so like where exactly would I be looking for something and replacing it? So that string is what your text is. That's the first argument. Then the next thing is your old text. Old text is what you're looking for. Normally, like if you had gone into Control H, whatever you would type in this find what pane is what you would put as your old text. Your new text is what you are replacing the old text with. That's simply what it is. Very simple. Then your instance number. Instance number, in the event where the string you are trying to replace occurs more than once, for example, which of the instances do you want to replace? Do you want to replace the first, the second, or all of them? Just note that if you leave it blank, meaning that if you omit it, Excel replaces every instance of the string you're looking for. Okay, 2 more things you must know about the substitute function. The first one is that it doesn't support wildcards, so you can't do like search with an asterisk or question mark, and it is also case sensitive. So Victor starting with a small letter V is different from Victor with a big letter or capital letter V. So let's get into a simple example so you kind of see what's going on. So I kind of hid something over here. So let's look at this. Football is a great sport. Nigerians love football. Football unites us all. Let's assume we're in America and maybe they call football soccer. So what I want to do is I want to replace football with soccer, right? Okay, rather than use the find and replace, depending on the context, it's possible I want to retain my original text as is, and I just want to have a modified version somewhere. So I would use the substitute function equals to substitute the text. This is the text. What's the old text? I want to look for football, and I'm typing it just like it would appear, and I want to replace it with soccer. That's really it. Press enter, or in this case Control enter. And you see soccer is a great sport. Double click to come down. Nigerians love soccer. Soccer unites us all. That's really what it is. Find and replace using a function. Okay, fair enough. So let's go into a use case where sometimes it comes in handy. Most times the substitute function has to be wrapped in some other function depending on what you're trying to do. There are a lot of times where I have to use it in VLOOKUP because the lookup value here is different from the lookup value in the table array, and you know that for VLOOKUP to work you must have the strings being exactly the same. So you might have to use substitute to manipulate or tweak one of them just so that it looks exactly like what you have on the other end. So let me just show you an example here, a simple example. So what I have here is I have just something I cooked up, some transaction IDs, which look like this: IDO1, IDO2, IDO3, and so on. Okay, and I have the IDs, the dates, maybe the transactions occurred, and the transaction amounts. And now here, what I have is, okay, the locations where maybe those transactions took place, right? Now I don't have it on the other table. So ideally, I would have done maybe like a VLOOKUP, which is kind of look up the ID from here in the location table and return the location, something like that. But when you look at the transaction ID, you can see that the ID is just ID 0001. When you look at location, what do you see? It's ID underscore, meaning that if you did a VLOOKUP, really it wouldn't work because the two strings are not the same. So I'm not going to do a VLOOKUP here because this is not a VLOOKUP video. What I'm just going to do is, okay, do the substitute part of it and then leave the VLOOKUP for another video. So what I would do in this case is, since I know that here I have ID and here I have what? ID underscore. So what I'm going to do is just going to do a substitute here. I say substitute in this. Anywhere I see ID, what do I change it to? I change it to ID underscore, right? And I have something that looks exactly like what I have at the other end. You can just test that. Equals to this, equals to this. And that's true. And it's true all the way. So if you wanted to do a VLOOKUP, you could then do this either with helper columns, or you could just embed it within the VLOOKUP, nest it within the VLOOKUP, and kind of just do everything you want to do in there. But the substitute function is really handy when you have two strings that are kind of similar but not exactly the same, and you just want to use a find and replace to make them alike. You can call on the substitute function and it will deliver for sure. Okay, so I want to do one example that makes use of the instance number, because you can see that from all the examples I've done, I've simply used the first three arguments, which are just the text, the old text, and the new text. I haven't used the instance number. And don't forget, like I said, if you don't give it an instance number, the function will still work. What it will do is that it's going to replace all instances, of the string that you're searching for. So let's go to instance number. And let's look at this example. So these are kind of what our phone numbers maybe in the part of the world I come from, Nigeria, look like. Okay, and let's assume I had it this way and I wanted to format it in this way. So what do you notice? Essentially, I'm kind of trying to take out this second hyphen, so I have 4 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers. That's kind of what I want, because currently now I have 4, 1, 2, 4. So I want to have 4 numbers, 0802 hyphen 3. This hyphen should go, it becomes 05, and I have 42224. So I just put the exact way I want it to appear here. So we can use the formula in the next cell and going down. So if I were to use the substitute function, or if you were to use find and replace, this will probably be where the substitute function has an edge over find and replace. Because if I did a find and replace like this and say Control H, I say replace hyphen with nothing, it can't discriminate. It's going to just replace all the hyphens. That's what it's going to do, right? Which is exactly like if I were doing a substitute function. So let's do a substitute so you see that exactly. In this, replace hyphen with what? Nothing. Double quote, double quote. You see? It takes away all the hyphens, which is what happens when you don't feed it with an instance number. But since I know that what I want to do is to replace what instance? The second instance of the hyphen, because this is the first one and this is the second one. So I can just add in that argument and say instance number, I put what? 2. And let's see what happens. You see? And then I can double click this down. Even though I have like 500 of them thereabouts, it's all done with 2 clicks. So that instance number is something that makes the substitute function very powerful, and probably maybe gives it an edge over find and replace. So when you're not trying to replace every instance, of the string you're looking for, the substitute function can come in handy for you. Okay, so one last example which pushes it a notch further, but maybe for those who want to stop the video at this point, it's fine to do so. But if you want to see one other popular use of the substitute function, which you see on a lot of forums and fora, then I think you should watch this one. So sometimes you want to know maybe the count of maybe a particular element or text, how many times a particular text appears in a string. So for example, the very popular one you see is sometimes you want to know the number of spaces you have in a string for different reasons. If this were all maybe names and surnames, or some were names, middle names, and surnames. With the number of spaces, I may know, okay, yeah, here I have just a name and surname. So if I'm trying to split it in some way into name, surname, or name, middle name, surname, I kind of know, okay, if I have just one space, then I have two names. If I have two spaces, I have three names. So it could be used in, such a case. So sometimes you want to know how many spaces do I have. Okay, but that's difficult to do. There isn't one native function that just tells you. It's different if you are saying how many times do I have a string appear. Of course, in these cells, I can use a count if, maybe, for example, right? But I'm saying within this cell itself, how many times does a space appear, or how many times does an alphabet appear? So what you can do is you can use the substitute function nested with the len function. The len function just gives you the length of a string, right? Most of us may be familiar with that. So if I say Victor here and I say equals to len Victor, it's just saying what's the length. So it means that Victor has 6 characters. That's really what it is. So think about this. If I have Vic 2 spaces TOR, what will be the length of this? Let's see. The length is what? 8, right? So if I replace those spaces with nothing, depending on the number of spaces there, the length will reduce by that number of spaces. So if I replace the spaces here with nothing, what would happen? It will become what? Just Victor. The length here is what? 6. That would tell me that I have what? 8 minus 6 spaces, which is what? 2. That's kind of the idea, really. You first find the length with the string intact, you replace that string with nothing, which is pretty much like taking it out. The difference between the two lengths is the number of times the space appears. So that's the trick here. So what we are just going to do is we're going to come in here. I'll show you how we build it up. We'll do a substitute and say substitute in here. Take out all the spaces. So wherever you see a space, put what? Nothing. Okay, so you see what it does, right? Let's take that down just because I didn't want to keep the formatting. Okay, so I can then find the length of this modified string. So it's telling me the length is 12. But the next thing I need to check is, okay, what was the length before I did the substitution, right? So I check the length before substituting, I check the length after substituting. Whatever that difference is just the number of spaces in there. That's pretty much what it is. It's kind of easy, maybe when explained. So 3. Then we kind of take this down, double click that. Let's just do that. So we have here, we have just 1 space. Here we have 2 between Henry and Ronald and Ford. Here we have 3. And here we have 1. So there you have it. Just a few examples of how the substitute function can be used and how useful it can be. So when you think of substitute function, just think of find and replace in a function or formula context. Okay, like I always say, if you can think it, Excel can probably do it. If you like this video, of course, you should subscribe, and you can also click the like button. It never hurts. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.